Welcome to today's webinar on Limbic Insights. My name is Anastasia Lloyd-Wallace. I am the head of insights at Retail Doctor Group. I have been with Retail Doctor Group about 8.5 years now, really focusing on neuroscience and how to understand customers on that emotional level, and really understanding not only how do we connect with them, but how do we use this to increase our customer transactions, how to increase our customer frequency, how to grow brand awareness, and also more importantly, in this current climate, how to really refine where we put our marketing spend, and all of our in-store and retail execution. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, the work that I've been doing now for over 8 years in understanding our customers and how you can use this in your business. Understanding customers on that emotional level, understanding their personalities, and digging really more into what we can do, how we can execute. So becoming much more important. So welcome today, everybody. Just, I suppose, a couple of housekeeping things. If you want to ask any questions, you can pop them in the Q&A for me. And we will be recording the session. So there will be a copy available. So if you do have to dash out early, you can't stay for the full session, or you would like to share it with other people, the recording will be available and we will be sending you a follow-up email later. And also, again, just quickly before we continue, we do have another webinar next week where we are actually going to talk about the state of the nation and look at some of the broader trends in retail right now, and with a real focus on customer loyalty. So we welcome some CEOs to join us for that session next week. So if you're not yet signed up, there will be a link at the end of today's presentation, or you can find it on our website. Fantastic. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. One of the things that we really want to focus on is understanding how you can appeal to your customer in under 3 seconds. And I would get you all to just have a bit of a think about when you walk down a shopping mall or a high street, and you were just drawn to certain retailers. And then there are other retailers that you really do not appeal to. Well, that is your emotional brain. That's what we call the limbic part of our brain. It really decides why you connect with certain brands more than others. And that can be through all sorts of mediums, such as tone of voice messaging, in-store design, color schemes, right down to what sort of materials are being used. You don't realize it, but all of these subconscious cues are being put forward to our customers. So by understanding what subconscious messaging you are giving out to your customers, you can really target it to appeal to those core customer segments. And one of the key messages that I'm hoping everyone can take away today is you don't have to be all things to all people. If you can really target to your customers and create that personalized experience, you will create these really brand advocates, loyal customers that will keep coming back to you, that will be your voice. We don't need to be everything to everybody. One of the key messaging. So firstly, let's just take a few steps back through the science. And if people know me, they'll know that I am a bit of a science nerd. You will come to that later in today's presentation. I've got a master's degree in mathematics, so I am that numbers person, so there will be a few numbers today. But what we do know from the science is that 95% of decision making happens in our emotional brain, and that is the limbic part of our brain. We know that our emotional actually drives more than our logical brain. So as retailers and brands, we need to understand how we can appeal to these customer emotions rather than the rational. So if we think about that time we go into a store, and I'm going to use the example of particular brands, I'm very much drawn to a particular fashion brand, Chic, and I very much like the color pink, if we haven't guessed. And I will go into Chic and I'll buy another pink dress. Surprisingly, I have many pink dresses. I don't need the pink dress. It's just that I'm emotionally drawn to that brand. I'm emotionally drawn to that particular product, and I will spend my money. And then afterwards, it's that post-purchase dissonance. It's the rationale part of my brain that goes, well, you didn't really need that. You didn't really need to have that. But as retailers, it's how do we play to those emotions? And so when you look at the data that you've got available, in particularly when you look at your point of sale system data and your social media data, these are all very important pieces of the puzzle. But what they give us is they give us what happened, and how it happened. So Anastasia went into Chic on Saturday and she purchased a pink dress. But what we don't know is, why did Anastasia particularly go into Chic out of all of the other fashion retailers, and what made her purchase that product? What was her why? Why did she do that? Why did she do that at that particular time? So the why gives us what experiences these consumers are looking for, what their emotions and their subconscious drivers are. And more importantly, if we know that why, we know how we can tailor every part of that customer journey, right down from our pre-purchase, our marketing messages, our loyalty schemes, our in-store experiences, even right down to our staff training. If we know their emotional needs and emotional drivers, we can really tailor that whole customer aspect. So one of the things that I did want to touch on today is, we talk a lot about our consumer trends, and at Retail Doctor Group, we monitor consumer trends and consumer sentiment twice a year. So we really do keep a finger on the pulse, but we're actually conducting research at all times. So several times a month, we're actually conducting research. And one of the things that we are seeing at the moment is, as the market is tightening, as we're going into a lower time of consumer confidence, what are we seeing is that the power of the brand becomes more and more important. So we talked about this as a trend last year. It's moved in, and even in the last 3 months, we're seeing customers now move to brands that they trust, move to brands that are more reliable in these times of lower confidence. And what it means is, it's important to understand, how do we build our brand? How do we make an emotional brand, almost humanize our brand, so that customers will remain sticky to us, will keep coming back to us, and when they do have money available, they will be spending it with us first and foremost. So I think for any retailers that are still thinking in that transactional space, that is when we are playing purely in that price wars, which is really going to come to the forefront as customers more educated, they know how to research, they've compared the prices. But if we've got this emotional brand, they're less likely to look at the prices and more likely to stick to these brands. So I think as we go into this tightening, it is very important to understand what are those emotional drivers of your brand. So today we're going to talk about how we can understand customers and how we can really create a connection with them. So I'm going to, again, firstly say, well, why is this important? So in classic demographics, and you may have seen this being presented a few times, we have two people, same age, same gender, same location, same income. And so in classic marketing, you'd be putting them in the same bucket. You'd be targeting your social media. You'd have one advert. You'd be purchasing media based on those demographics. Whereas what we actually need to go beyond is, well, what are the emotions? Because otherwise, we have two very, very different personalities. Now, this one's particularly relevant. Our recent King of England, I was in England for the coronation, didn't go there on purpose for it, but we very much see this very much classic personality of King Charles. It's all about order, logic, and what drives him, what topics he's interested in, what platforms he's looking at. Very different to that of Ozzy Osbourne, who's much more interested in adventure, fun, spontaneity. So we can see these are the emotional cues that drive these two different personalities. We can't purely look at demographics. However, we do need to layer our demographics in, because our personalities at 18 and 80, whilst they remain the same, so our personality type does not change, what will change is how we express it. So at 18, it's much more digital savvy, different platforms, whereas if our customers are 80, they still have the same emotions, the same drivers, but they may be expressing it in different ways. So in an example of an 18 or 80-year-old, an 18-year-old that's looking for adventure, very much jumping out of planes, racing motor cars, whereas an 80-year-old, they're still looking for adventure, but they're wanting to beat their next door neighbor at chess. So it's all in a very different mindset. So it's important that we use these two together to look at their emotional drivers and then how they express that demographically. Another quick example, we have two women, 30 to 35, high income, both in the same location, so both live in Nashville. Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus. Again, from a personality and an emotional driver segment, very different personality types. So this is just going more and more to be understanding, well, customers are dead. They are humans. I have used this slide for quite a while because, as I say, it's something that I've been preaching about for over 8 years now, that it's important that we look at understanding our customers on that emotional level. We can't just put them into buckets based on age, gender, and location. You know, classic media buy looks at who we live next door to. Well, if you think about your next door neighbors, are they the same people as you? Even if they're the same age and gender, they haven't got the same emotional drivers. So we need to go that step beyond to really connect with our customers. So today we're going to talk about limbic insights, which is one of the ways that you can do this. It's a neuroscientific personality profiling tool. It actually came out of Germany probably over 12 years ago now. So it's quite a long time ago. It was specifically designed for retail. And in these last 12 years, we've been constantly collecting data about retail behaviors, brand behaviors, anything classic, B2B, B2C, anything where someone purchases. This is how limbic data has been used. So not only have we been collecting data on what are these personality types, what emotions do they use, but also more tactically, well, how do we use that in retail? How do we bring our stores to life? What does our store design need to be? How do we purchase media? You know, what do we actually look for to purchase our social media, to purchase our out-of-home media? What do we need for each of these personalities? It determines why customers choose you. And I think this is really important. Why do they come to you? Why do they walk past everybody else? And the ultimate goal is, if we can create an emotional connection, your customers will walk past your competitors to come to you. They will be those believers. This is my example of Chic. I will have walked past Country Road and Kukai to get to Chic. So it's how do we create that strong emotional resonance? It is this customer pull. It's how we bring them into the business. And it gives us this detail. And classic research, when we ask customers questions, so everyone says, I talk to my customers, I do surveys, I ask questions. That's one thing, but quite often your customers will tell you what they think you want to hear, or they'll quite often tell you it's price. Or they'll tell you the quite transactional aspects. That's that rational brain. So we talked about that 95%. That 5% is what they will tell you through classic surveying. What limbic is going to give you is that 95%, that emotions going beyond what they can verbalize and into their subconscious. So the people that like the science, and we'll talk about why you like the science in a minute, just some of the data. So we want to appeal to that subconscious mind. It processes around 11 million bits of information per second. When you compare that to the conscious mind, which is about 50 bits per second, it's a huge difference. So it's around 200 times faster. And the purpose here is that if we can have the correct cues through imagery, tone of voice, color schemes, store designs, marketing materials, so that we appeal to that subconscious, that's doing the hard work for us. It's given us that greater return on investment and greater cut through to those core consumer segments. And it works in the brain. We can see our cognitive brain is our episodic memory, our working memory, what we did, how we did it, but it doesn't give us what we feel. So that subconscious is all about feeling, our mood, our emotions, our memory, and that's where it's really important. But enough about the science. Let's get to the fun bits. So everyone that's in the room, just in your own, I'm not going to ask you to jump out, but just so you can understand what we're talking about, have a look at these spheres and pick one that you think you are drawn to. So look at the colors, look at the words. There will be one that you are drawn to more than the other. So if you have a look through the 7 different ones here, and I'm going to explain what the 7 are in a minute, you will find that you are drawn to one of the 7. Whether it's the top left, curiosity, spontaneity, variety, fun, creativity. As we go across, thirst for adventure, we go down, we have harmony, tradition, discipline. Now, there's no right or wrong answers. Every profile is different. Every person is different. And as I'm going to explain to you in a second, how these all fit together. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to pick one that they think feels like them. Now, obviously, when you would be doing this with customers, or this can also be used as ways to profile your executive teams, ways to profile your, if you're a franchise, your franchisees, ways to profile your team members, to understand really what drives them, what are their emotional drivers in all aspects of their life. We would do this in a lot more detail, but this is just quickly for today's webinar. So let me give you a quick insight to the limbic system. So you can see it sits on a wheel. So we have a wheel. We have 3 core drivers: the stimulants, the dominants, and the balance. Now, everyone is driven by one of these 3 key systems. So whether you're driven by stimulants or you're driven by dominants, that then determines your personality types. You can see then within that, we have all of the different emotions of the human brain. So all of the emotions sit in this wheel. And we can see that we definitely have a bit of a skew towards female, towards down in the balance, and a bit of a skew towards male, up towards the dominance. Our recent research has actually showed that that skew is moving slightly, particularly in the dominance. We are seeing it slightly more even out with women there. But other than gender differences, we definitely do not see any age differences as to where people sit on this wheel. So then we divide that into the 7 personality types. And there's a reason why it's on a wheel, because just because you have a core driver, it doesn't mean that other things won't influence you, but you will have a one core emotional segment. So this then breaks down into our 7 different personality types. And I'm going to take you through what each of these mean. And as a brand or a retailer, you'll find that your core customer segments will sit in one of these customer segments. Now, the question I get asked quite a lot is, well, how many should we be targeting? So realistically, 1 or 2, maybe 3 segments within this wheel, depending on the size of your business. If you are Telstra, you are much more across the board, and you will be looking at how you target each of them in different ways. Whereas smaller business, if we think about our harmonizer is around 30% of the Australian population. So that's the equivalent of around 8 million consumers, which are harmonizers. And so really having a focus on them will give you a really large core segment. And then effectively, it doesn't mean that we're alienating the other segments. We're just really building our heartland. So let's just talk about the different personality types. So if we start from the left, we have the disciplines. Anyone that picked blue in the room, this is the discipline personality, driven by discipline, rationale, reason, diligence, precision. If you haven't guessed it already, this is me. So I am a disciplined. I've got a degree in mathematics. I like everything to be in order, logic. I love to work in a spreadsheet. My holidays are planned in spreadsheets. Every single purchase that I make is planned in a spreadsheet. My partner is actually remarkably also disciplined. Every purchase that we make is compared on comparison sites. We've read the reviews. It's all about data. So it's very much about data for us. So if that is your core consumer segment, it's all about numbers, facts, figures, data, reviews. Give them the figures for them to make the decisions. Whereas if we move along to our performer, so our performer is one of our smaller segments. They are just under 10% of the Australian population, and they are driven by performance, success, efficiency, ambition. Get to the point and make it quick. Your performer doesn't give you a lot of attention. If you give them too much data, or your website's too difficult, or they can't find what they need in the store, they've gone, you've lost them. This segment, while it's a small segment, is actually our higher income and high spending segments. So some businesses will particularly target this performer due to the fact that they really are a high spender. It's all about efficiency. It's all about success. It's also all about exclusivity. So think about exclusivity, VIP, and we will talk about each of these in a bit more detail. Moving along to our adventurer, thirst for adventure, rebellion, autonomy, impulsiveness. They love a challenge. If you can talk to your adventurer, if they're your core consumer segments, giving them a challenge, gamification, making it interesting, getting them involved in the process. And then moving on to our hedonist, we can see they're actually a little bit similar in the fact that they want to be involved. It's about curiosity, spontaneity, variety, fun, creativity. Our hedonists are our classical creative types. Get bored quite quickly, looking for new products, looking for interesting products. If you're a brand that has a core segment of a hedonist, it's got to be new, it's got to be fun, it's got to be different. Constantly changing in-store displays, constantly changing online, surprise, delight, excitement. A lot of people say, well, classically, that's our younger demographics. You actually find that these segments don't change with age. Our hedonist, doesn't matter whether they're 18 or 80, we still have the same proportion of hedonists. It's just how they express it that's different. They'll generally be your leaders. So your hedonists and your adventurers are generally at the forefront of new items, new products. They're going to lead, they're going to be your influencers. Moving into our open-minded, well-being, pleasure, fantasy, openness, sensuality. Now, our open-minded are an interesting group. It's much more laid back, much more inspired by visuals. So if your core customer is an open-minded, it's all about the interesting store windows, store displays. They will walk past the store and be very easily influenced. So it's all about interesting displays. The same for the marketing. They like marketing material. They want to see the EDMs, the social media posts, very high social media users, but it's got to be beautiful and interesting. If we're going on social media for our disciplined, it's facts, it's figures, it's data, it's numbers. So we can see already those two consumer segments as we move through. Very different for even how they look at social media, even what they want in their in-store experience. So our harmonizer I've touched on is our core segment in Australia. It's around 30%. It's all about security, trust, reliability. They want to be part of a community. They want to be part of a family. Family is very important to them. So for retailers and brands, they're very much looking for safety. They want you to look after them. They want to be part of your network, but also feel that they can trust you. They're very much the followers, so they'll look for social proof. So for a harmonizer, it's very important to have word of mouth, referrals. They want to listen to their friends and family. So less likely about looking at 5-star reviews like our disciplined. It's less about the data. It's more about their trust, their friends and family. So word of mouth and referrals from their trusted network. And then finally, on the end, we have our traditionalist. So our traditionalist is around 20% of the Australian market at the moment. It's all about tradition, order, reliability. They very much do not like change. So if this is your core consumer segment, they're quite the opposite to the hedonist. The hedonist is constantly looking for new products and stimulation, whereas the traditionalist, it's about reliability, it's about trust. They know what they're going to get, and that's why they keep coming back to you. They keep coming back to you for those reasons. Very much classical in the way that they research, very much classical in how they interact. If this is one of your core segments, they want to talk to people. They want to have that interaction with staff in store or online, and it's how you can bring this to life. They want to get to know the people in the business. So we can see, if we go again right to the left, our performer, they want to be in and out as quickly as possible. They don't want to talk to the staff members. Your performer would quite happily do everything through a digital interface, whereas your traditionalists, they really do want to interact with the person. They want that human touch. So you can really see already the differences between these personality types. And then when you look at who your core customer segment is, and you can do this through research, you do this through talking to them, you can build up these profiles of who are you talking to through an emotional level, and then layer on top of it your classic demographics, so age, gender, location, to really give you a detailed description of who that customer is and what they want. And then you know what messaging, what tonality, even right down to imagery. So I'm just going to give a couple of examples of how this is brought to life. So we can see two examples here of, and I'll show one at a time, of an advert done by KLM several years ago. And this was an EDM, so this was an email. And it went out, book this New York special before June the 11th, single car. So this was really targeting the performer. Book it before June the 11th. Basically, it's scarcity. It's gonna run out. You've got to do it now. And it's a single car, so it's very singular. Our performer, it's very much about themselves. It's singular. It's less about the group, less about the family. They're operating alone. Whereas when we then see this exact same advert, exact same product, This is targeted our harmonizer for our most popular destinations. So most popular, follow the crowd. They want to know that everyone else has been there. And even the imagery, it's lots of people in the imagery. They can see that everybody is there. So two very different personality types, same product, very different way they brought it to life through messaging and through imagery. This was another example. When we ask the customers what do they want, and they'll give you the answer of best deals, high quality, reliability, functionality, all quite tactical and transactional. But when we then looked at their limbic types, we could really pull out, well, what emotions were driving these purchases? And this was with an outdoor retailer at the time. And you can see what were the hidden emotional needs of the customers. And we saw those three quite key segments. Your top was your adventurer looking for active camping, exploring the wilderness, very much around the adrenaline junkie. We then had our family comfort. So it was more about safety, security, reliability, social, spending time with friends and family. And then you had your traditionalist. It was peaceful, quiet, quite traditional and quite singular. So we had these three very quite different consumer segments. And so what did that mean when it was then thought about and brought to life in retail? Well, the adventurer was looking for something to touch, to try, to play with, to experiment. Remember, they're looking for that, keep them interested, gamification, so how they can play with that in store. The harmonizer was then looking for, it was very much about how they spend time with their friends, their family, bringing all that together into a very much a harmonic and social environment. Whereas our traditionalist, it was actually quite the opposite. It was make it simple, make it easy, keep it laid out, quite easy for me to find what I want. Classic retail. This is another example of in-store experiences and how this resonates with the different customers. And we all know these two major brands. On the left, we have Peter Alexander. On the right, we have Hugo Boss. Just take a minute, have a think. There's going to be one that really appeals to you. I'm imagining I can see everybody. If you put in your hands up, if it's Peter Alexander on the left, and you'll either have a very strong reaction to both of these stores. Hugo Boss on the right. Well, what we can see there is Peter Alexander, open-minded, hedonist, love this store because it's all about visual excitement. It's all about exploration, new products, finding something interesting. It's all about the hunt. We can see it's quite finding the products. It's laid out so that you have to go and look for things, and it's the excitement of that purchase. Whereas our performers, disciplined traditionalist, really dislike it for the reason that it's not ordered, it's not organized, they can't find what they want. The performer, they want to get in, get out, make it quick, they can't find what they're looking for. But we're actually creating a real core segment, our open-minded hedonists, that love this brand. So you can see we don't need to be all things to all people if we can really create an atmosphere that they love. Whereas in the reverse, on the right-hand side, we can see that our performers love Hugo Boss. It's very much about the scarcity of product. So there's very limited product. The strong colors, so the black, the red, even right down to the design aspects of the concrete floor and the mesh going up the walls. It's climbing the ladder of success. It's very bold. And we can see our performer and our adventurer really do enjoy this. Disciplined traditionalist pretty much in the middle, and our harmonizer, keep it well away from the harmonizer. It's not about social. It's not about nature and harmonizing. It's quite the opposite for them. So just remember, guys, if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop any questions into the chat as we go through. I'm probably talking at 100 miles an hour right now, so feel free to ask as many questions as you want. So limbic color cues. So I touched on this just briefly then, that you may be giving out signals to your customers through the color schemes used without even realizing. So if we look at the limbic color wheel, we can really see which colors drive those particular personality types. So in the dominance, we can see red, gold, black, really strong. So victory, fight, passion, speed, premium, elite, assertion. It's not a surprise that Qantas's color scheme is black and red. So premium, fight, passion, speed, it'll get you there every time. You can see what we're getting. We move around: blue, trust, discipline, precision; white, cleanliness, quality, health. If you think about pharmacies, again, majority of pharmacies are sitting in that blue and white precision, discipline, hygiene area. As you move further around, the green for the harmonizer, calming, collaboration. And again, you'll find that particularly whether it's doctors or caring retail is sitting in that green space. So that's very much a calming color. As you move around in the stimulants, the colors then become more bold. So fun, humor, zest for life in the orange. So again, not surprising that we see Qantas's counterpart, Jetstar, sitting in the orange space, because when you buy a Jetstar flight, you don't really mind where you're going on holiday, you buy it at the last minute, a $300 trip to Hawaii, because it's fun, because it's interesting, because it's different. It's all about that zest for life, creativity, extravagance in the yellow, and then moving around in the impulsive, the luxury into purple. So almost looking at your brand, and one thing I'd recommend for everyone in the room is, once you've discovered who your core customer segment is through that personality and that demographic, then looking through every touch point of your brand through not only tonality, word of mouth, what are we saying to them, what message are we using, what style of voice, what is our tone, what colors are we using, what images are we using, does it all back up those emotional cues? Are we saying the same thing, or do we have several voices, and is it causing a confusion? So when we look at these customers and what their journeys are, we can see they've got very different journeys. And in particular, as we're going into, tougher economic climates, it's really important to understand, well, how do we get a better return on investment? We don't need to be putting money into every single social media channel and every single marketing medium to attract these customers. If we know who our core personalities are, we can know where to really focus. Now, it doesn't mean we don't need presence on every point, but it means that we don't need to put all of our efforts into certain areas. So if we look at the performer, for example, they're very much driven by online reviews, blogs, comparison sites, online advertisements, so Google. In particular, they may be more interested in YouTube, in LinkedIn. You will not find them on Facebook. They're really not interested on Facebook. They're definitely not going to be on TikTok. These are the consumers, they're reading blogs such as business blogs, financial blogs, investment, real estate. So we know the topics that they're looking at as well. So it really can help hone in how you spend your marketing dollars to really get a return if this is your core consumer segment. We then look at when they move into store. Well, they're looking for a premium experience. It's an experiential. They really want to be made to feel special, but they also want quick and prompt service. So they're not going to mess around. They want to be in, they want to be out, they want to be able to find what they want quickly. So again, whether this is in store or whether this is online, they need to be able to find their products quickly or be able to get what they want with minimal fuss. We then move into post-purchase, and your performers are much more likely to be your consumers that have got VIP subscriptions. And for the reason, it's a different reason why they want the subscriptions. They just want to make their lives easier. They want to make it quicker. They don't have time to mess around. They'll buy a subscription if it means that they don't have to think about it. And they're very much looking for VIP. So VIP events, VIP subscription services, VIP loyalty schemes, status. In particularly, if your core segment is a performer, do we have status levels in your loyalty scheme? Is there a bronze, silver, and gold that they can strive for? Because to them, it's about status and achievement. They want to be able to achieve. Think about Qantas. Their core segment is performers. Naturally, retail, CEOs in general do fall into that performer category more often than not. And you'll find that, Qantas very much quite classically targets this performer, and everybody wants to be Qantas Platinum. Everybody really is looking to get up those status levels. So we know that this segment is really very much attracted to them. And it's also very much about limited time product offers, limited products, specifically, there might be a limited run of an item. They're going to want to have that because it shows their status. Having something that nobody else can get really gives them that status positioning. So if we look at our hedonist, that actually moves quite a different customer journey. So our hedonist, heavy social media, they will be on Instagram, they will be on TikTok, they will be on Twitch. They'll very much influenced by celebrity and also be the influencers themselves. So we can see very much a different journey. Our hedonist is not researching, is not comparing prices, they're not comparing product data. They are very much instant gratification, and it's all about making it fun and interesting. It's a lot more about the brand rather than the details for them. In-store designs are very important. It's got to inspire them. It's got to keep them interested. It's got to be constantly changing. It's got to be new every time that they look, otherwise we've lost them. So the importance of your window displays and the importance of your store design becomes much more important through a different manner for this group. And what they want to see post-purchase, what's going to make them loyal and keep coming back to you, is either new products, new, give me something interesting, or special events. So they really want to be feeling that they are special, they are different, and they are getting these products from you. So again, creating this community by building these special events and new products for them. And I'm only giving a couple of examples today. The harmonizer is the third one that I'm going to give today. And again, we can see a very different customer journey, online reviews, friends and family. So if this is our core segment, the importance of a referral scheme and the ability to have a referral scheme is absolutely vital. They are, especially again, as we're going into this constricting market, the harmonizer is looking for that trust, and they're looking for that from their friends and family. So if that is your core segment, do we have the referral scheme in place? How do we ask for reviews? In particular, they're more likely to be on Facebook as well. So how do we get the Facebook reviews? How do we get the Google reviews to really gain the trust of these harmonizers? When they're in store, they want staff recommendations. So again, they trust the staff, or at least they want to be able to trust the staff. So having knowledgeable staff is really important. So do you have the right training in place that's going to give you your staff the knowledge to be able to talk to these customers? They want detailed advice. So do we give our staff the skills in store, if this is our core segment, to be the experts so that the harmonizers can trust them? So looking at your staff training, your onboarding, induction processes to really ensure that we have that in place for this core segment. More likely to sign up to a loyalty scheme. They want to be part of a community. This is why they want to be on the loyalty scheme. They want to be part of the community. They want to hear recommendations. They want to hear what's popular. They want to hear what the staff are recommending. So again, it's part of a community for them. It might be community events, but they want to feel a belonging. So we can see a very different need through loyalty and a very different loyalty program for this harmonizer segment. So when I speak of loyalty programs, again, just a really quick high level, you can see immediately how each of these different consumers is wanting loyalty. And we've seen some great examples with the clients that we've worked with out there that are building very different loyalty programs. It's no longer about collecting points. The classic loyalty is out the window. It's very different what they're looking for. Is it about experiences? Is it about money can't buy products? And is it about actually community, becoming part of a community? Is it about VIP services? Is it about subscription services? So again, I can't stress enough how important it is to really understand who your segments are, not just on age, but through those emotions. We've got a great example here of Starbucks of how they've executed for different consumer segments. So the harmonizer, it's our best-selling product. So they're looking for social proof. The performer, limited edition, so it's about scarcity. It's all about scarcity and premium. Disciplined, much more reliant on discounts, so it's very much more reliant on discounts. And hedonist, design our limited edition cup. So your hedonist is your creative. They are being part of it. So design our next cup. They are being the influencers in the center. The hedonist wants to be in the middle of it all. It's about them. And I think what's quite clever here is, you can have Starbucks is trying to attract a much bigger breadth of consumers, and you can use different mediums for each one. So we know that the harmonizer is more likely to be on Facebook. We know that they're more likely to be influenced by word of mouth. So that's how we can focus on the harmonizer. Whereas we know our disciplined is more likely to be looking at online forums, online reviews. So again, we can focus our marketing efforts with a message for the disciplined on those channels. So it's almost about having several different strategies in place for each of these consumers with the particular platforms that we are going to target them on. I've talked a little bit about Qantas today, so I will skip over that one. We can even see right down to the in-store designs, emotional, inspirational for our open-minded, clear, simple, organized for our disciplined, exclusive and strong for our performer. So we work with store designers that really do look at each of these consumer segments, look at their emotions and think, well, how do we bring this to life in store? What does this mean in the store design? And again, something that's really important to think about, not just through wayfaring, but through exactly what visuals do we need to bring to life in store to really attract. If you go back to what I talked about at the very beginning, about you walk past a store and in 3 seconds you are attracted to that brand, it's understanding, well, what is the design aspects that's going to influence that? And even right down to your staff. So I talked about how this influences staff training. Well, if our core segments are harmonizers and traditionalists, it's all about care. They're looking for staff that are going to look after them, that are really going to give them that trust and security. So your staff training is all about being the experts, being able to reassure. Whereas if you're in that stimulant section, they're looking for experiential. So you're actually looking for staff that are a bit more on display, that are a bit more fun and excitement themselves. I want to use the word like entertainers. So your staff actually have a very different role in store. They're not looking after the customer, they're entertaining the customer. Whereas if you're in this very much dominant section, it's efficient. Your staff are there to get to the point, give them what they need so that they can be on their way to their next job. So it's really understanding, well, what type of service do they actually need, and how does that then influence everything down to your onboarding, induction, staff training. This is some great examples of the different adverts that have been used for some confectionery manufacturers. And so again, just looking at the adverts that they've used, this is a few years ago, but we do probably remember these ones, that Cadbury's, excitement, playful, pleasure, fun. It's very much in that stimulant space. Everything about it, I mean, the color of Cadbury's fits very nicely, but it's all about the excitement and fun. Whereas when we go over to Ferrero, exclusivity, status, so really looking for that performer. And again, if we remember, that gives us that premium positioning, that premium price positioning as well. And then Arnott's at the bottom, trust, care, nature, tradition, family. It's about the care. We'll look after you. I think this particular campaign was about hugging a tree or writing on a tree. Again, it's about looking after family, community. So we can see really how it's brought to life through different advertising campaigns. Even things like different media consumption. So each personality type has a different preferred medium. And this is where you don't waste your marketing. If you know that Helen the Harmonizer is your core segments, then we know she's on Facebook and Instagram. And as we know in current times, we've got limited time, we've got limited budget, we've got limited staff. So being able to know where to focus your hard budgets. Helen's in these two segments. We know that she's particularly watching free-to-air Netflix, Disney Plus. We know that she's interested in theatre, cinema, podcasts. We know that she's looking for frequently asked questions. If she's reading blogs, she's looking for how-to guides, and right down to what type of magazines. So you can see each of our segments. Now, this doesn't mean they're not looking elsewhere. So if you're thinking, well, I'm a Helen, I'm a harmonizer, and I do go on TikTok, but it's the core influence. And if we had unlimited marketing budget, unlimited availability of staff, then we could be across everything. But we know that we really have to target, and this would be where you would look for each of these segments. And then what we also know is what genres they're looking at, what topics they're interested in. So you can even look at how you buy your data, how you buy your media, how you buy your social media, and also even what topics that you can use to really connect with them. So again, if I use Helen as the example, romantic, documentaries, comedy, she's interested in personal care, sustainability, health and wellness, cooking, traveling, pets. So you really build up this character of who Helen is and what we can talk about with her. What she's not using. Well, she's not using TikTok. She's not on YouTube. She's less influenced by radio, less likely to be at events and concerts, and not as interested in influencers. She follows people, but not your classic celebrity influencers. So you can see right across the board, each of them are different. If we look at Peter, the performer, he's interested in documentaries, reality shows, real estate, sports, crime, thrillers, personal care, business, travel. So again, he's got quite a different interest. Now, again, when it comes to gender, we have given each of our personalities here a gender, but that actually doesn't mean that they lean towards one. In all of our segments, Helen the harmonizer is the one that does skew more to women. It doesn't mean that we don't have male harmonizers, we do. It just skews slightly more to women. And Peter the performer does skew slightly more to men. In all of the other segments, we actually see a 50-50 thereabouts split between genders. And Peter the performer is actually moving more towards an equal split than there were sort of 10 years ago, which is quite interesting, you know, the nature nurture sort of aspect coming through there. I'm going to almost draw to a close here, and maybe open it up to any questions very shortly. So please have a think if you've got anything you want to ask. I'm going to quickly take you through, this is how Limbic Insights works, and how you can do it, but you can also think about how you can do this with your own database. So what we look for is, well, what does the business currently mean? What are you currently saying to the audience? How do you come across? So in this example, we can see that that core brand image is very much sitting in the stimulant section. Then looking at where the competitors sit, because at the end of the day, we need to have a point of difference. We need to stand out and have a reason for customers to come to us. So in this same example, we can see there's a gap in the market, also in the stimulant section, and also a gap in that dominance. So then we have a quick look at, well, who is actually shopping the sector? So who is shopping your category? And these numbers just give us the Australian average, not the category, the whole average across Australia. So as I mentioned before, our harmonizers are around 34% there. Our traditionalists 14%, discipline 13%. We then look at who's shopping the sector. So in this example, you can see that our harmonizers under index in this sector. That means they are less likely to shop in this sector. But what we can see is that our hedonists are over-indexing and our open-minded are over-indexing. And we can also see that our performer is over-indexing in this segment. And then when we go a step beyond, we actually then look at this specific brand and their specific customers. So we can see they've got two core customer segments, and that's our hedonists and our open-minded. So we know that they're hearing the message, and they really are their core segment, and it is getting through and it's working. So this would be where we would focus even stronger, because until we've got every single hedonist, we've still got breadth to go. But what we can see here is that our performers, they're shopping the sector, they're higher than average, but within the customer base, they're actually lower than average. So what this would tell us that we've actually got a bit of an opportunity there. As I mentioned at the start, our performers are our high spenders. They're very much a high value customer. So if they are active in your sector, but not coming to you, that it really is that opportunity. So how do we talk to them? So we can see that the current core for this particular example brand is in that stimulants, but they really have an opportunity in that performer segment. So how we bring that all together, and how I do suggest that everyone sort of thinks about this is, well, where's your current brand image? You know, we don't want to turn it all on our heads and reinvent a new brand. So we need to think about, well, where are we? Where are the current gaps in the market? So again, this was quite important to understand, well, where could we be playing? Where is that core customer? Are we actually aligned? And we can see that we've got that opportunity very much in that dominance. So we can see for this particular example, we've got a core positioning in the stimulants with our hedonist and our open-minded, but we've definitely got that opportunity to grow the brand more in the performer. And how you would do that is then having a look, well, what platforms are our performer on? What messaging is going to work for them? What tonality do we need to use to get that through to them? And it could even be as simple as we said, well, performers are more likely to be on YouTube. They're very much looking for details and business related, but let's get to the point and make it quick. So we're going to have a YouTube strategy that really does focus on the performer and talks to them. They like exclusivity, they like scarcity, they like limited edition products. So we're going to talk to them about our VIP club or our subscriptions, or we're going to talk to them about our limited edition products that we're going to release. And it's purely going to be coming across our YouTube platform, because we don't want to interrupt with what we're doing in our core positioning, which is on our Instagram platform for our hedonists. So it's having a think about it in that way, that how we can put particular messaging really targeting that consumer segment. So this really gives you, by thinking of your customers in a different way like this, it really gives you that ability to determine what that customer path is. So where you can focus and what you should be saying, both to really get the new customers, to build your brand awareness, retain your existing customers, so build that frequency of purchase, and also build that brand advocacy. So if we're talking to them on that emotional level, we actually find that we build brand advocacy, brand loyalty. They're a lot stickier to the brand. Determines where your gaps. So you might actually find that you have a gap that we could be playing to that are not currently coming to you, and how we can talk to them. One of the key areas that I think everyone needs to think about now is that this is really going to help the marketing optimization. Think about your marketing budget. How much do you spend in your marketing budget? So if you can take some time and effort to really nail this down of who we're talking to, we can really see a higher ROI and a saving in our marketing. So by almost taking a step back and spending a little bit of time to determine this, we could be saving ourselves a lot more in the long run, or even increasing our revenue through this as well. So that's something I really want us all to think about. I said it at the very start, we don't need to be all things to all people. How to buy media more effectively and greater ROI. We often see this with clients that broadly buying media, even using Roy Morgan, this is still largely giving you demographic details, you know, buying based on next door neighbors. If we can really link it to personality types, in this case limbic, you can really target your media buy a lot more and get greater ROI, and create this brand that customers connect with. And as I think we'll see, we predict over the next 6 to 12 months, the importance of brand is going to be on the rise as customers look to lean on brands that they trust, lean on brands that they connect with. So that importance of having that strong brand is really key. So what to take away from today? Look at those customers. Who are they? And really look at them as how they can guide your strategy. Personalities, motivations, demographics. It all plays a part as to then how it's executed, whether it's through in-store experience, online experience, all different marketing channels, social media strategy, media buy. It should be touching on everything. So I'd be recommending you take a step back, look at who those emotional drivers are, and then look at every aspect of your customer journey through that lens of who is that customer and who are those emotional drivers. Just opening up to questions. I still don't think I've got any questions. Everyone's very quiet today. That's okay. If you have further questions for me, feel free to drop me an email, anastasia@retaildoctor.com.au, or reach out, happy to have a chat, how to bring this to life. And then I suppose if we haven't got any questions today, just to wrap it up with what we are doing next week. So today was purely focused on consumer insights, consumer personality types. Next week, we have part of our State of the Nation series. So we've been running these since, we've been running our events, CEO events for a long time, about 15 years. And our State of the Nation series came out of COVID. And we've been around 23rd State of the Nation, and this time we welcome Brian E. Kennedy, CEO of Adorn, Anthony Grice, CEO of Clark Rubber, and Adam Posner, CEO of Point of Loyalty, to really delve into how to grow customer loyalty through emotional connection. And as I've mentioned far too many times today, very important in this next 6 to 12 months as the market is changing. So that's our webinar next week, 31st of May, 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. There's a QR code on the screen that'll take you directly to register, or you can register through retail.group website. Just go to our events page and sign up for that. This is an online webinar. We do often host these events face-to-face, Sydney and Melbourne. So also keep your eyes peeled for the face-to-face events. So if we have no further questions, we will wrap it up there today. Feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. Hopefully I haven't talked too quickly. There's just so much to talk about. It's a topic that I could talk about for a very long time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And my name was Anastasia Lloyd-Wallace, Head of Insights. Thanks.